Greetings! Today I have for you a pseudo tutorial. I don't do a lot of wire work, but I know a lot of people love doing it. So this is also going to be kind of a learning experience for me because I just wanted to mess around and see what I could come up with. And I'm mostly going to be focusing on this wire. I still have no idea what it is. It kind of looks like stamped sections of chain, kind of like a box chain or a snake chain almost. I don't know, it's not swirly twirly, but it is very shiny and nice, and I do like it. I got this at the Pandahall Slected haul that I did, the latest one, so I'm going to be focusing mostly on that. I kind of wanted to do a bezel, but add beadwork at the same time, so we'll see what happens here. So, I'm working with this fancy wire. There's links down below on it. I'm going to be working with some 22 gauge wire and some 26 gauge wire simply because that's what I had on hand and I don't want to use too much of this stuff because I want to savor it. I also have this cute little pendant thingy doodad that I threw together using UV resin and some of the materials from Pandahall as well. I know you guys are probably sick of my UV resin stuff, so I figured I would spare you that one. Then, I'm going to use some tiny 2mm beads in order to amplify the bezel. Now, especially if you're using something either really soft or really fancy, don't use anything super faceted like bicones or some oddness like that because it'll scratch your stone. So go with round pearls, you can go with faceted rondelles or fire polish, you can also probably try out some seed beads if you got favorite colors, what have you. So, that is my warning. Now let's try to do something spiffy. Alright, so what I've done here is I have 4 lengths of about 18 inches of wire. I have the fancy 2 fancy strands in the front and the plain round 22 gauge in the back. If I were to guess, this stuff looks about 20 gauge, so if you want to do this without the fancy wire, that's cool too. But I like the fancy wire, it looks cool. And to keep me from hating myself even more, what I've done is taken 2 pieces of tape to flatten out the bundle and to keep things in place while I try to secure everything before everything goes haywire. So, I'm going to anchor this bit first before we do any work on the bezel. So I've got another 18-inch length. It doesn't have to be 18 inches. I just have problems with guesstimating lengths, and I have big hands, so I cut them way more than I need to. If you're using things like sterling silver wire, I'm sorry. You can collect your clippings and then torch them to use something else. But I'm going to lay my wire flat, and then somewhat in the center, I'm going to lay over my 26 gauge wire. I'm going to take the tail, leave a couple inches of the tail, wrap around through all 4 bridges a couple of times till I feel nice and secure. Smoosh that down and take your other thread, wire thread, and wrap that one down, keeping your tension real tight to make sure nothing gets loose. So, I'm probably going to wrap this until I have about an inch wrapped, and if you need help, use some pliers to help things stay flat and in position. You can also use your pliers to kind of flatten it and make sure everything is lined up properly. Okay, more like a ½ inch, that's good enough for me. So, what I will do is clip the ends real close to the wire so that the scratchy bits don't scratch skin. I might take a file to it later, but for now, I'm clipping the ends here. And I'm going to start... Ooh, that's just tough. I'm going to start folding this in half, and then just kind of guesstimating length and distance. And start molding it around the bezel. This is some pretty tough wire, so you might have to use some sort of tools to assist. And what you'll want to do is pass the ends past the center so that you have some cage to wrap around, like that. Then what we are going to do is take our pliers, and we're going to go to the point of our bezel, of our cabochon. I'm going to line it up past the center there. Then we're going to take our pliers and bend it 90 degrees upwards. And that's going to be the start of our bail. We fold it up like that. Obviously, you will want to go closer to the center, but my hands are hurting. So, go like that. And do that with the other side. I'm going to rip some of this tape off. I should have done that in the first place. But anyway, so we've wrapped that one. We're going to wrap this around, mold it to the cabochon. Take our pliers 90 degrees upward. And when we squish together, the bezel will turn out like that. We could slide our cabochon in there, but we're not going to quite be doing that yet. Now, I'm going to peel the tape off of one side only. Take our 26 gauge wire again, aim it pretty high up, so we still can keep our threads together. And I'm just going to do another shorter wrap, probably a 1/4 inch this time. A little shorter than this. We're just using this to manage our threads and make sure things don't fly all over the place. Kind of shape it with our pliers, clip the ends so that the pokey bits do not scratch the cabochon. Repeat that on the other side. Alright, so we've got our 2 secure points here. I'm sure if you have more experience with wire work than I do, you can probably make it fancier and neater, but this is what I'm doing, and I'm gonna make it work. Now, before I get to the fun bits, I kind of want to anchor this point together, which will be our bail eventually. So what I want to do is pick a side, take one of the smooth wires, the furthest back smooth wire. I'm going to pinch these together, take one, and just wrap it around the other side. Then through the other side again, just wrapping it around, collecting all 8 of those ends 2 or 3 times. I can either clip it or leave it if I want to do something else extra fancy with it, but not quite yet. Now we're going to start the cage that will hold up our cabochon in the front. I'm just going to kind of straighten some wires and leave things so that they are nice and contained. Going to also make sure that our cabochon can still fit in here. Doing some reshaping and resizing, just to make sure. So, I have my 4 strands here. What I want to do is take the very first fancy strand, separate it with a pair of pliers, and then just kind of bend it really far up front. Just kind of bending it forward. This stuff is very hard. There we go. Bending it forward a little bit. Maybe adding a little curve to it. Something nice and cute. Like that. Then I'm going to take the other fancy wire. Move it similar. But not too far into the center. So, kind of mimicking the wave as well that we have. It looks like we got kind of a crater there. Now we're definitely, because I had to manhandle this, going to be adjusting, making sure the shape still works. Like so. So we have a bezel like that. Now this looks cute as it is, and you could totally leave it like that, but I like to complicate things and make my life more difficult. What I'm going to do is take another length of 26 gauge wire. I'm going to kind of fold it in half, but not too tight. I'm going to slip it underneath both of those front strands. Pull it towards the center. Then I'm going to pull that down and anchor this in place. I'm going to take my right side, wrap it around the right strand there, just to keep it there. My left side, I'm going to just tuck it and wrap it around the left side so that I have tightly anchored my piece. Now, I'm going to start working with the beads. So, herein lies my first hiccup. Be sure that when you are picking beads to use with this, make sure the beads can fit both lengths of wire. You can easily change your bead size and shape, or you can change the threading wire to something smaller than 26 gauge. I know I have something in my house up to 32 gauge. I don't like using it. But in any case, I am going to start off by taking one bead, and I'm going to use a modified right angle weave stitch. In fact, nothing modified about it, I'm just doing something weird. I am going to thread it on one side, pass through with the other side until I form an X, pull the two sides down, and kind of snuggle my bead inside that frame that we're making. Then to secure that in place, I'm going to wrap my now right side around the right thread, the right wire at our fork, left side go underneath, and wrap it around the left side of the fork. Because of my shape, I'm going to do that once more. I'm going to add one bead to one of my threading wires, pass through my other threading wire, pull tight, push it up and position it where I want it to go, take my right thread wire, wrap it around the right frame to secure that in place, left side, go underneath, through, and wrap the left side. So that I've got two lined up. Now this gap is starting to widen a little bit, so I think I can have fun with my next stitch. I'm going to thread on two beads on my left side, then one bead on my right side. I'm going to take my right thread, pull up the second bead that I added on the left thread, cross those, pull that down, so that we end up with a cute little start of a right angle weave. Anchor that just like we did, wrapping our threads around and anchoring that in place. And I'm just going to keep doing that. Try it once more. I'm going to add on two beads on my left thread, then one bead on my right. Let that one drop down, pick up the second bead on the left thread, cross it with your right, and pull down. You may hear some very unsettling noises when it comes to the beads. There we go. You will have a second stitch. I think I have room for one, maybe two more of the 3 bead stitch, and then I'm going to go down until it narrows and add either 1 or 2 of single beads left. Alright, and that is what my mess looks like. You can kind of shape it around to make it fit the waves more. You can make the waves a different shape so that it fits the pattern a bit better, or what have you, but this is what we're looking at. So, now we're going to insert our cabochon, and then we're going to anchor the bezel using the smooth wires. So all I'm going to do here is take the backmost wire, pull it forward, kind of mush it around over it, and then do that on the other side as well. Then finally we're going to dig down to the top left corner and pull it down, letting the little springy bits hold everything in place. And do it on the top right corner. And you want to have it so that the center smooth wire is anchoring it like a basket. You're going to need to pull things around. With this side, you're going to want to pull in the fancy bit a little bit. Kind of keep it snug in place. Move the shape a bit around, kind of push things together. In order to get this basket a little bit tighter in the back, what you want to do is take a pair of pliers and just kind of twist until everything is snug and tightens around that. Pull it around and just shape it and mangle it and manhandle it as much as you want till it stays in there. Pull on your bail side, go to the front, do something similar with the frontmost fancy edge on the other side. Just a little bend here and there, a little bend here. So what I'm going to do is separate two of the fancy threads, pull them down, just use them as decoration. Then I'm going to attempt to flatten these and have it so that the two smooth wires are on the outside and the fancy one is on the inside, and I want to flatten those out. Mush them together. Take your round nose pliers and just kind of pinch them together. Hold them all and then wrap it backwards so that you have a nice little loop there. I'm going to push it so that it leans flush against the little knot, like so. Kind of twist it inward. Round it as you need to. Take your fancy wires in the center and just wrap once around in each direction. Like so. You can either clip them or do fancy little curly swirly waves around it as well. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to kind of bend these differently. Take probably up to 1 inch off. Maybe a little longer for this one. Take my round nose pliers and start spiraling the wire. I'm going to take this little nubbin off because it's not perfectly round, but because this wire is so tough, I'm not going to be able to form a perfect spiral. Curly swirly. Do the same thing with the other fancy one. Roll that. Take some flat nose pliers and just kind of go at it. Bend, shape, poke, and prod is what I'm learning that wire work is really all about. Now with the back sides, you can do a similar thing, wrap them around and go forward, or you can simply just wrap them around once or twice before clipping your threads and having your finished piece. But that is what I have for you. I know I'm not a wire working expert. I know this doesn't look too great, but this was more of an inspiration rather than a full-on tutorial. I just had this idea in my head of how to use this fancy wire, and this is what I played around with. Again, this is from Pandahall Slected. I'll send a link down below for the type of wire that this is. And I hope you all make this and have fun with it and show me a better way of making these things. Feel free to put that down in the comments below if you have suggestions on how to advance my wirework skills, especially if you find easier ways of doing this or something to make it look cleaner and neater. But in any case, I think that will do it for me. Be sure to like up this video and subscribe if you want to see more bullshit from me. Check out all of my social media shenanigans, links down below. And be sure to join us over on Discord, where we have a fantastic little community that talks about beading and everyday life and things and such. And it's a great way to get some socialization in. So come and join us. Links are also down below. Thank you all so much for joining me. And of course, if there's anything I need to be trying out right now, feel free to let me know down below. And I will see you next time.